All right, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us today to learn about Outdoors for All with Enoch Glidden. I'm Heather Drake, the Membership and Engagement Director with the Maine Public Health Association. Today's event is part of our Health Equity webinar series, which is called Health Equity from Information to Action, which has been developed by our Health Equity member section. I want to thank those members for their work organizing today's event and all the other events in our series, which you can find recordings of on our website. And I'd especially like to thank our co-sponsors for their support with today's event, of which there are many. I'd like to thank the Natural Resources Council of Maine, the Southern Maine Conservation Collaborative, Maine Conservation Voters, Sierra Club Maine, Maine Outdoor Adventure Club, and the Appalachian Mountain Club. And I especially want to thank Enoch for presenting today, and again to all of you for being here to learn about this important topic. Just a few logistics before we begin. You should have been alerted already, but we are recording today's webinar, and we'll send the recording out to all registrants, and we'll put it on our website at mainepublichealth.org as well. And you can also find, as I mentioned, the other webinars in the series there too. We ask that you please stay muted throughout the duration of the presentation. We will take questions, but we'll take those via the chat. So throughout the presentation, if questions come up, feel free to put those there, or you can wait until we get to that portion. So with that, I am happy to welcome Enoch Glidden. He is a lifelong resident of Maine and a disabled adventurer, and he's made it his life's mission to explore the world. Through that endeavor, he's had the opportunity to experience a wide array of physical activities, from downhill skiing to scaling the face of El Capitan, and he has gleaned firsthand the benefits of outdoor recreation for the disability community. I'm excited to turn it over to Enoch to hear about his story and ways to advance outdoors for all. So thank you so much, Enoch.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for having me today. So my first thing that I want to talk about is this question of how can I? This is a question that I've asked myself my entire life. Whenever I wanted to try something or experience something, I had to ask, how can I do this? This question has led me to be able to do a lot of amazing things just by using three answers to that question. First, I try something, because trying guarantees you're going to learn something. It may not work out exactly how you would hope, but you'll learn something, and you can try again and reapply it, what you've learned, and you can keep trying until either you work it out or maybe you run out of ideas. If I run out of ideas, I start to do some research. I go to Google usually, and a lot of times you'll find someone out there has already posted something about what you're trying to do. And you can learn from them and learn from their experience. If I don't happen to find anyone, then I'll reach out and I'll ask for help, because somewhere in the world, there's always someone who is willing to help. The biggest accomplishment I ever have done so far is scaling the face of El Capitan. And we made a movie about that along the way. That was Craig Murdelak that filmed it, and I had another guy climb ahead of me and set ropes so that I could do pull-ups on ropes to climb the face of the mountain. And during that time, I used all of those three things to accomplish my goal. And I'd like to show you that movie, and I want you to think about those three things as you're seeing the movie and how those all came together to accomplish a big goal.
Morning. Man of the hour.
There was this bird with one leg. I realized that no one is ever going to tell that bird that it's disabled. It will just live its life and continue doing what it does, not knowing anything is different. I was born with spina bifida, which left me paralyzed from the waist down. Basically, I was born with a hole in my back, and the spine grew through it, and it pinched off my spinal cord. And then I spent 3 months in the hospital waiting to die, and then I didn't. I got into climbing through an organization called Paradox Sports that does human-powered outdoor activities. And I have a lifelong dream of climbing El Capitan. I met Sean through Paradox Sports. He has been helping me learn everything I need to know before I get there.
I've been there, I've climbed El Cap, I've experienced the rewards. A lot of those are beyond words. Anything I can do to help Enoch achieve some of that, is my great pleasure, my great privilege. It's not realistic to expect the mission to succeed. What is realistic is to give it your best shot. That's just let it play out. And however it plays out is a beautiful thing. A normal climbing experience, everybody's given about the same amount. But if you're part of a disabled team, you gotta be ready to give 110%.
Feeling pretty motivated to get up there,
I knew right off the bat, I have to do this. I want to be part of this.
It's part of adaptive climbing is adapting the gear so it works for us.
In order to get Enoch from here to there, we're asking a lot of people to do something they otherwise probably wouldn't want to do. We're just gonna have to ask around and see who out of the kindness of their heart is willing to step out and come forth.
I think in an ideal world, we have at least 8 people coming in to help carry.
I don't have any doubt. No doubt. 'Cause I'm just a girl. Oh, it's my destiny. Oh, I've succumbed to what's making me dumb. I've had it up to here.
It took a massive amount of people to pull this experience off. And before I came here, I didn't realize it would take that many people. I'm nervous, but I'll be all right. It's just dragging a rope.
I feel like El Cap is the ultimate metaphor for doing something that has no practical application, except that if you work together and you stay safe,
Thank you.
that nothing else can really hurt you. You got the sun, the moon, stars. It's a reason to stay alive.
Look at that. Made that crux look easy.
Woo! Second day.
So,
Yes,
we are basically officially at the point of no return.
I know.
So what that means,
Does repeller go? I don't know, I feel pretty weak and sick. I don't want to stop, but I don't want to get up there and then want to stop.
this is the make or break moment. Once we get above this, there's no going back that way.
Well, I don't want to quit, but I don't want to put us all in a situation where it's way more complicated to get down.
We just need you to be, honest with yourself. If you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. Up or down?
I don't know. We're going up.
Going up. Wall climbing's hard enough. Enoch, I don't know what you did, but yeah, you definitely flipped a switch today. And you've been fierce and non-stop. Literally ever since then, you haven't hesitated.
I think I was only thinking about bailing because I knew I could, and now I can't, so now I'm not thinking about it. But getting past that was really difficult. You think about all the things like, what if I can't make it? I should bail right now.
2 more days, and it's gonna be a battle. Have we seriously been up here for 4 days?
Yes.
And here you are.
Yep, 38 years later.
38 years later, and you're up on a freaking wall.
Still almost kicking.
Still almost kicking. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I am definitely looking forward to topping out. Mostly so I can get a shower.
One more pitch, and we're at the very, very top.
A year ago, I didn't think this was going to happen. Now I'm going to do it.
Well, I think a lot of times when I climb, I get quiet. And the smaller problems of daily life seem so dreamlike. Climbing, it's all immediate. You know, you're thinking about what has to happen right now.
You got some progress. It's gonna be hard.
I gotta make the next 5 feet.
There you go. Nice, 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 nice.
I can't go 5 feet unless I go 1 foot.
It's just not good. It's just not moving.
I can't go a foot unless I go an inch.
Thank you so much.
What are some things that you think you're gonna take away from this?
The memories of working with you guys and becoming closer as time went on.
Come on. This is the 3,000th pull.
This is the 3,000th right here.
1, 2, 3, pull.
You're topping out El Cap right now. There it is. There it is. There it is. Yes!
The challenging part of climbing El Cap is that it hurts. That's a way of confronting what life is all about.
Welcome, dude. Oh, come here. Woo! How good is it, man? I feel that my heart was there the whole time. It felt good to like work so hard for someone else.
He's letting go of a lot, but I think when you're in good company, then the rest is just having a good time.
People see me climb. They realize that there's no such thing as impossible. You just need to ask for help.
Slowly but surely, we're making our way down.
To me, this was like an opportunity to see another side of climbing, to see people give everything they have to help someone else realize their dream.
You climb the mountain to come down and climb more mountains. If you can inspire somebody along the way, really that's all that matters.
You stuck with it today.
No, you guys definitely stuck with it.
Dude,
That was.
we didn't have a choice.
Neither did I. I was tied down.
You were restrained.
So as I was growing up in Maine, I became a really enthusiastic outdoors person because I grew up in the woods. We had a log house and we had a lot of land and woods behind our house. And I would just take off into the woods by myself and see how far I could go pushing my wheelchair. And if I ever got stuck, I would stop, get out of my wheelchair and crawl. And I would just pull my wheelchair along until I could find a spot where I could start going again. And it was those experiences that really taught me that I could do anything if I just tried. one of the people that really drove that point home to me is the man in the beard here, Bob Dyer. He is my phys ed teacher that I met in junior high. On the first day I met Bob, he walked up to me and he said, "Can you do 20 push-ups in your wheelchair?" And I said, "Well, I can do 40." And I don't think I'd ever done 40 push-ups in my entire life, but I did it. I pulled it off. And from then on, he didn't treat me differently. He pushed me to try things and really got me involved in all the other things that the kids were doing. I did soccer. He allowed me to hold the ball in my hand, and that made me pretty popular because I could put the ball anywhere I wanted. So I got picked a lot for people's teams, and he got me into skiing. He took me skiing at Sunday River actually for about a week every year. And he got me into wheelchair racing. I joined a basketball team called the High Rollers in Bangor. And that really opened up my world also because I got to see people with disabilities doing things that I had never seen before, because I was the only kid who used a wheelchair in my school and really the only kid with a disability. So that really opened up my world to seeing other people and seeing examples of things that I could do in life.
Hey, Enoch, could you turn your video back on? We just turned it off during the video to get some better internet quality.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. And later on in life, because of Bob and setting me on this path of adventure, I've tried hang gliding. I've got almost got my pilot's license. I got about 60 hours, but it's very expensive. I tried skydiving, and all of these things were because Bob showed me that I could do things if I just tried. And that really set me on a path to achieving a lot of amazing things. But I also was one of the lucky ones. I had people in my life that showed me I could achieve things, and I had parents that had an income that allowed them to drive me to Bangor 100 miles when I wanted to play basketball, and allowed me to fly to Florida to play basketball games and take me to Sunday River to go skiing. And that's not necessarily the reality for a lot of people with disabilities in Maine. As you can see from the statistics here, there's almost 340,000 people, including children and adults, that have a disability in Maine. And only 35% of all working age Mainers with disabilities were employed not that long ago. That's compared to 81% of people with no disability. So that means about 65% of people with disabilities aren't employed. Their only income is government benefits, which doesn't really cover a whole lot. So that means it's really difficult to be able to afford transportation and to be able to afford equipment and all the things that are necessary to perform a lot of the activities that I've done in my life. Some of those barriers to the outdoors, or really anywhere or anything that we want to do in life, are physical environments that aren't accessible. Lack of relevant assistive technology. This is a huge one. Assistive technology is very, very expensive. I often see when I'm hiking, people talk about adaptive mountain bikes, and they're a great thing, but they cost between $8,000 and $15,000. So that really limits the amount of people that can afford them and have access to them. It's great when you live near an adapter program that has that equipment available, but Maine is a very, very big state, and often travel is inhibiting to people who need these services. There's also negative attitudes of people towards disability, services and systems and policies that are either non-existent or that hinder the involvement of people with disabilities. And then, like I said, lack of transportation. That is a huge one in Maine, because I know from growing up in northern Maine, I had to travel 4 hours just to be able to ski one way. And that if I didn't have people to drive me or my parents and Bob Dyer, it would have been very, very difficult for me to be able to do that. So that's why I've just started working with Maine Trail Finder about a year and a half ago or so. I was contacted by a friend at the Adaptive Outdoor Education Center who said that they needed someone to help them assess trails in Maine for accessibility. And this was right up my alley. I love being in the outdoors. I love hiking. And hiking is really the basic way for people to enjoy the outdoors. It doesn't necessarily require a ton of equipment or people and a lot of expense. You just have to go outside and find a trail and be able to access the trail. So when I assess trails, I look for various obstacles, routes like this picture, rocks, steep inclines, the surface of the trail, things like that. So then I ask the question, is this accessible? Or is this accessible? Well, I would argue that both are accessible because I could see a path through those routes. It may be a moderately accessible path, but I think it also is accessible. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do through my work at Maine Trail Finder is come up with a rating system that matches the rating system that's already in place, but works for everyone. So that question that I asked before, how can I really want to get everyone to ask, how can we make the outdoors more inviting to everyone? And there's a lot of ways we can actually do this. When I talk to Land Trust, I talk about a 6-week plan and a 5-year plan. So there are things you can do right now, and this doesn't necessarily only apply to trails. You can evaluate current trails that are already rated easy, remove the obstacles and cover routes with dirt or other material, remove bog bridges. This is a big one for me because bog bridges automatically make a trail completely inaccessible. But if there was a boardwalk, it would make that section accessible. You can evaluate the grades and side slopes. If they're too steep, maybe you can remove some of the dirt, you could flatten it, you could build it up. There are various ways of changing the slope of a trail. You can evaluate your signage. This is a big one because that's where the whole experience starts, at the trailhead. When people see the sign, they need to be able to see information that allows them to make a decision if they can either do that trail or not. So on signs, these are some of the things that really need to be there. The destination of the trail, the length of the trail or each trail segment, the surface type. Is it gravel? Is it hard packed dirt? Is it pavement? The typical and minimum tread width, which is the width of the trail. The maximum and typical running slope, which is the slope going forward. The cross slope, which is the slope from side to side of the trail. And the obstacles encountered with pictures and descriptions. This is a big one. So if someone can go up to either your website or up to a kiosk and see what they're going to encounter on that trail, they can really make an informed decision about whether or not they can do that trail. But like I said before, it doesn't necessarily only have to apply to trails. If you work in an office or a store or some type of business, you could think of that as a trail. The trailhead is your front door. Is the front door accessible? Is the path through the business accessible? Can I get to all the destinations in that business? So there are many ways to apply this to a lot of applications throughout the world. And at the end, a statement that the posted information reflects the condition of the trail when it was constructed or assessed. So this allows someone to know how long it's been since this information was gathered, so that they can assess, well, has it rained, or is it after winter, and could there be washouts or various other things that have changed the trail significantly. The 6-year plan, you can evaluate your harder trails to see if there's a different path to the destination. So if you have a hard trail with a really steep hill, is there a way around that steep hill? Or if you have a river crossing or a water crossing, can you put a boardwalk across it or a bridge? There are lots of ways to redirect a trail and still keep the challenge for everyone else. If your budget doesn't support replacing bog bridges, can you do one and then do another one next year and another one the next year? And eventually you'll have an accessible trail. Are there hills that could be made less steep? And remember, accessibility is a vast, vast topic. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. Just make progress toward the goal of being accessible. And one of the other things I like to tell people is, don't necessarily describe things as universally accessible, barrier-free, because those are really tall goals to accomplish. But give people the best description you can possibly give so that they can make a decision for themselves if it's accessible to them, because accessibility is different for everyone and disabilities are different for everyone. I'm a wheelchair user, but a visually impaired person would have a different experience, or a person using a walker would have a different experience. So we all need information to be able to decide for ourselves. A little early, but is there, I guess we could do questions.
Thank you so much. And not early at all. There's already questions coming in. I was just trying to write some down. So one of the first questions is, if someone is looking for a listing of accessible trails with great information, is there a place where they can go to find that?
That's a very good question. So on Maine Trail Finder, there is a section now that I've been working on called Accessible Adventures. And when you go to find trails at the top of the website, you'll see a list of filters, and one of those filters is Accessible Adventures. And that will allow you to find all the places that I've been and have decided or evaluated to be accessible. So that's a really good resource. Also, if you want to find all of these requirements, they're at the US Access Board website.
Thank you, very helpful. And sorry, I just dived into asking the questions. For those in the audience, please, you can feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat, whichever is easier for you, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And I also just want to let you know, Enoch, in case you're not looking at the chat, there's lots of thank yous in there for all of the great work that you're doing. Another question that we received is whether you would be willing, or if you're interested, to connect with schools. This particular person works on making more of their outing club events accessible, or at least teach the staff and students about accessibility.
Speaking to schools and connecting with schools is absolutely my favorite thing to do. I've actually been trying to connect with schools lately and struggling a little bit, but I've had some progress. But absolutely, I would love to travel all over the state talking to schools and really showing kids that possibilities are out there.
Thank you. And if folks are looking to connect with you, is email the best way?
Yep. So my website is just enochglidden.com, and I have all my information on that website. And I also have a contact form for speaking requests, but you can use that also to just get information or contact me that way.
Great, thank you. Another question, you had talked about trail signage. Who or what organizations, and there's probably a lot of different answers for this one, are responsible for trail signage in Maine?
So land trusts are usually the ones that I work with who manage trails, and they're the ones that set up the kiosks at their properties. But you can, I believe it's American Trails is an organization that helps with signage. But in the short term, it's the property owners that put up the signs and are responsible for all the information on their kiosks.
Thank you. And we have two questions that they're somewhat related. So the one is there a way for community members to add accessible trails to Maine Trail Finder? So this person has found that there are accessible trails, but they're not in the system.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's an awesome question. There is a way to submit on the website. You can actually sign up for an account and you can submit that way. And also it allows you to keep track of places that you've hiked and various other things through the website. So you can submit information that way.
Thank you. And then related to that is if someone comes across an issue on a trail that they believe needs to be addressed, where would they go to report that?
I would contact the land trust that owns the property, because they're going to be the ones that are most motivated to make that trail better for people. And they're the ones who are going to have the resources and the authority to do it. So I would definitely contact them first. And if not, you can contact me and I can try to help facilitate getting that taken care of.
Great, thank you. And we have a lot of questions coming in. And this is aligned with one of the questions that I had, is whether you have examples of places or organizations that are doing a great job with this, either with the trails and or the signage.
So Harpswell, Maine is doing an amazing job with trails. I went there a month or so ago, and it's really amazing the amount of accessible trails that are on the coast. And the Lubec area is a great area for accessible trails also. I went there for 3 days last year, and I think I hiked 10 different properties, and it was really amazing to see the amount of accessibility in that area. So I would say the coast is the big one. There's a lot more people, there's a lot more money on the coast for trails, because it is very expensive to build an accessible trail. So that's where I would say is the most accessible trails.
And have you found, speaking to the funding question, if organizations are looking to make their trails more accessible, is there a way for them to get funding beyond traditional means?
Yeah, there are grants. I don't know about a lot of them. American Trails just did a grant, and unfortunately nobody in Maine got it. It was mostly in California where they're located, but there are grants out there. But I would argue that instead of building new trails, we should try to fix the ones we already have. And I think that's a less expensive way to go about it, for one thing. And those trails are already going to beautiful destinations usually. And that would really open up access to a lot more people and give them a much better experience than just building a trail specifically to be accessible.
Thank you. I appreciate thinking through that. And there was, again, in case you missed it, Sam Andrews from Teens to Trails is in the audience and wants to connect with you as well about their work with outdoor clubs. Could you repeat the 3 things you needed to succeed? That was at the beginning of the presentation.
Yep. So whenever I decide I want to try do something or try something, first I just try. I come up with an idea and I just see if it works. If it doesn't, then I've learned something, and then I try again and keep trying until I can't figure it out. Then I usually do some research. I usually go on Google and just try to find anyone in the world who's posted something that I'm trying to do. And if I can't find something, then I usually put a message out to my people that I know in the world or anybody to see if someone out there has tried it or might be willing to help me. And usually I find someone. I don't think I've ever not been able to answer that question yet.
Thank you for repeating that. And again, 2 related questions. The first is, what's your favorite trail in Maine? And the second being, what's the most fun or memorable experience you've had adventuring?
There's a lot of good trails in Maine. So as far as accessible, I did the Hope Woods Cemetery Trail. That was pretty amazing. It's a naturally done trail, so a naturalist constructed the trail, and it was amazing to see how really well done it is. Then the Sipiak Trail in the Lubec area, that is a 1.8 mile paved trail, but it takes you through a lot of different habitats, almost all of the habitats you can see in Maine. It's a marsh, the woods, the ocean, all in one trail. So that was probably my favorite as far as scenery. And what was the second part of the question?
The most memorable or the most fun experience you've had adventuring?
I would say El Capitan would have to be the most memorable, and probably the most fun, other than getting carried off the top. That was not a fun experience. It took 17 hours, and I was strapped down in a rescue litter for the whole 17 hours, and it was quite a tough experience. But definitely, that would be my most memorable.
Yeah, for sure. I can't even imagine 17 hours.
And then it was 5 days to climb it, about 4,000 pull-ups.
Yeah, wow. I can't. I tried to do a pull-up on the playground the other day and I couldn't even do one.
Yeah, that's right. When people say, wow, 4,000, I say, well, you just have to do one 4,000 times.
Yeah. So another question, this is from a longtime trails and conservation advocate. They're wondering if there is funding available that you could create a helpful guide to creating accessible trails that could be widely distributed. Have you thought of doing a publication like that could be available online and or in print?
So I'm actually working on a project with Midcoast Hospital in Brunswick, and they're actually working on that type of project for the Midcoast. And I believe through Maine Trail Finder, we're actually going to work on some type of publication in either this year or next year to definitely get that information out.
Great. And then hopefully from there, it can be replicated for other communities too.
Yeah.
And again, going back to funding, we talked about funding the trails and either building new ones or fixing the ones that are there, making those more accessible. Are there funds that you know of for transportation to help people with disabilities get to these hiking adventures?
Yeah, that's a hard one. If you live in Augusta, Portland, or Bangor, there's transportation. But I do know of one service that takes you from Portland to Bridgeton. I believe it's called RTP, and it takes you to Pondicherry Park, which they're actually building an accessible trail right now as we speak from one end of the park to the other. So that is an accessible transportation option to at least get to one location that I know of. unfortunately, the public transportation in Maine is very localized to those major population areas. So the rural areas are really much harder, and especially north of Bangor. And so I'm not really sure there is a lot. That I know the VA does transportation, so that might be good. But other than that, I'm not really sure there is much for transportation.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand the transportation difficulties for sure. And in case folks aren't looking at the chat, Keenan put a link in there that the Land and Water Conservation Funds grants that are available and can be used to match towards accessible trails. And then this comes from a person who has multi-use trails where they work, and they're wondering what consideration they should take into account for all those various user groups when trying to make their network welcoming and accessible. So they have hike, bike, ski, horses.
Yep. So the surface, for sure, of the trails needs to be firm and as smooth as you can get it. There needs to be resting areas for people that can't necessarily hike long distances without stopping. So a bench, picnic tables, things like that for people to sit down. The grade. So there's various grades that you can have for trails from 5% up to 12%. And it depends on how far that grade goes on the trail. So 5% you can have as long as you want. And then it goes, the length shortens as it gets steeper. And make sure at the top of an incline, there's a resting area. And that's really the major ones. And then of course, really good descriptions so that people know what they're going to encounter when they enter your trail system, so that there's no surprises and they don't end up in a place where they are stuck. And one of the other things I really like is distance markers. So if you have a 3-mile trail, you mark it every quarter of a mile or whatever interval you choose, but it allows people to know how far they have to go back. And that's a big one that I don't see very often, but I wish people would do more.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate your point about just providing enough information to let people make their own decisions about what they feel they are capable of. I think that's really helpful and gives that ownership and autonomy to the trail user.
Yeah, because everyone gets to make their own choices. So people with disabilities should be able to do the same thing.
Exactly. And this one comes from someone working in the advocacy community. They want to know if there's anything you wish the conservation nonprofit community in Maine, especially ones who aren't managing trails, were more aware of or more considerate of when they do their advocacy work, or any tips you'd share for how they can be more inclusive.
I think if they teamed up with the various adaptive organizations that are in Maine, there may be more opportunity to advocate to the disability community and be able to get the information that we have and apply that information to the things that they're doing. So if they just ask us, essentially, ask what we need and ask what would be better for the outdoors or whatever project they're working on. And I think that would go a long way toward making the world a more accessible place.
Yeah, exactly. And I know in many of the groups and meetings I'm in, we definitely talk about including that lived experience voice. So I think that's important. This goes back to, you had talked about Bog Bridges. and there are, especially, I don't hike all that much, but there's a lot that I've encountered when I've been out. In the interim, are there modifications that trail folks can use that would make them work as a short-term retrofit, either by widening the board coverage or putting ramps in with them?
So the one problem with bog bridges is that there are gaps between the boards and they're running away from you. So the front tires of a wheelchair can drop in between them. So if you turn the boards this way, the gaps are running across and then you don't end up falling in them. So that's what the major thing with boardwalks solves, is that hazard of falling in between. So if you could get the boards perfectly matched together so that they're not causing gaps, that would be better, and definitely ramp the ends and make them wide enough, so at least 36 inches wide. But really the best way is to put it at a boardwalk. But if that isn't in the budget, then definitely making sure there's no gaps and ramping the ends.
Great, thank you. And this goes back to the transportation question that was asked earlier. How do you personally travel when you're hiking to trails within Maine?
So I'm lucky. I have a van and I can drive myself, and I've always had a van since I got my license when I was 16. So I've really been pretty lucky in that sense, that I've always had resources and parents and people to help me be able to do the things that I've done. So that's really been my way of doing things, is driving myself. I've even driven across the country, and I did a tour of the South and then went up through California and Seattle and all the way back to Maine. So I definitely have had the opportunity to travel and really see things that way.
Great, thank you. And I'm seeing one last question, but we do still have time. So if people have additional ones, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat. In addition to yourself, what adaptive organizations do you recommend folks in the audience partner with?
So there's Maine Adaptive Sports and Recreation. There's the Adaptive Outdoor Education Center. There's Central Maine Adaptive Sports. There's the Iris Network for visually impaired people. There's Momentum. There's, let's see. I know there's one more that I can't think of right now, but I can send out a list too if people need it.
Thank you. Yes, if you have a list, we would be happy to include it with an email out with the recording.
Yep.
And then there is another question that popped in. Is there anything similar to like a big brother or big sister club that's around that other people with like disabilities can mentor younger kids with a comparable disability to introduce them to these types of activities?
Yeah, I don't think there's a organization that's a really good idea though. I wish there was, but I would say going through volunteering for the adaptive programs is essentially that type of thing. So they always need volunteers for skiing or hiking or kayaking. There's lots and lots of activities that they do, and they're always looking for volunteers. So I would say that would be the biggest one, is volunteering for adaptive programs.
Great, thank you. Oh, and we might have one more question from Sherry. So we'll give her a few seconds to put that into the chat, and I'll ask a question myself. Is what does this work look like around the country? Is this happening in other states at the national level?
So at the national level, one of my friends, Quinn Brett, works for the National Park Service, and she's been traveling around the country checking national park trails. So it's definitely happening in our national parks and our public lands. As far as states, I haven't seen a lot of it. And I think that's why what we're doing at Maine Trail Finder is so intriguing to people, because it's sort of a new thing. And actually the standards for trails hasn't really been around that long either. It's only since 2015 has there really been rules around hiking trails for people with disabilities. So I think it's really a new and up and coming thing, and hopefully it really takes off and we can really just spread it around the world.
Yeah, it makes me proud to live in a state with folks like you who are doing this work. So thank you. All right, and I'm not seeing that question come up, but I'll keep my eye on the chat. And again, there have just been so many words of praise and thanks for you. And from us as well, and our co-sponsors, we really, really appreciate you taking the time to be here and to share your story and your video. It's been really inspiring, and our series is moving from information to action, and I think we learned a lot today on how we can take the work that you're doing and spread it, how we can make folks who are working in the trail world trails more accessible and be more mindful about as they do. So Enoch, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to everybody in the audience today for tuning in. We will be sharing the recording out to all the registrants, and we'll put it on our website as well. And then we will be doing one final webinar in our Information to Action series, which will take place in August on health equity and as a public health framework. So stay tuned for more information on that. And thank you everybody so much. Have a lovely afternoon.
Yep.